This is Fujifilm's latest compact camera, the X-E4. And this is a Leica M to Fujifilm mount adapter that I got off Amazon for 20 bucks. So I could mount my Leica M-Mount lenses to the X-E4 and turn it into a Leica Fuji hybrid. Why do I feel like I just committed a crime doing this, and why would you want to do this? Well, for science, but I wanted to also make use of all the other lenses I have, specifically these very compact Leica M-Mount lenses that I use on my Minolta CLE. And I actually got one of these adapters for my Sony a7 III so I could use these lenses on that camera. And now with this X-E4 and its super compact body, I figured why not try it out on this camera, because, well, these lenses are so compact, I feel like they just fit perfectly on a body like this. There are a ton of these adapters on the market right now, and actually Fujifilm has one of their own, which was originally designed for the X Pro 1. It's a bit expensive, wasn't willing to pay that much money for this experiment, so I looked for the cheapest one I could find, and I came along this one by Fotodiox, and it ran me about $20, and it also happened to be one of the more slimmer adapters out there, which is a plus. I gave it some black tape street photography treatment, and yeah, this is one sleek looking camera. Fujifilm, if you're watching this, please don't hate me. I just had to try this out myself. So does it work though? I actually thought it didn't at first, but you actually have to go into your settings and make sure you have shoot without lens on. That allows you to basically shoot with adapted lenses, and after that, it works surprisingly well. Obviously these lenses are full frame equivalents, so the 28mm I have on here right now, that will equate to about a 42mm on a crop sensor like the X-E4. I also have a 40mm, and that would equate to about a 60mm. Adapting lenses is obviously no new concept. Fujifilm actually has been open to this idea for a while, and that's why you saw that Fujifilm adapter originally being made for the X Pro 1. So they've been open to this for quite some time. And that's why you even have that shoot without lens option there in the menu. Okay, so that's that. Let's go out and actually take some photos using these adapted lenses. Alright, so shooting with these adapted lenses was quite an interesting experience. And I think my biggest takeaway really is it felt like I was shooting with a film camera more than a digital one. And that's because, with a manual focusing lens like this, I was forced to use manual focus all the time because, there's no autofocus anymore. So having that limitation, it made me shoot like I was shooting with a film camera. If you also add in the fact that the camera itself, the X-E4, is designed much like a rangefinder film camera, it really added to that, analog experience. I'd go as far as to saying it felt more like I was shooting film than when I shoot on my X100V. Now, before you mention it, I obviously can, have a similar experience just shooting with an actual Fujifilm lens and just use manual focus and use the aperture ring on the lens. But I think there's something to be said about having forced limitations with the gear you use. I can't accidentally use the command dial to adjust my shutter speed or, accidentally use autofocus. It's just not gonna work. Other limitations like not seeing your aperture reading on the back LCD forces me to pay attention to what my aperture is on the lens itself. This analog-like experience was not my intention when it came to using these adapted lenses, but I thought it was a pretty cool and interesting observation I had while shooting with these adapted lenses. Manually focusing with this lens is also a breeze because of how smooth the focus knob is. Sometimes you don't nail focus all the time, but that's part of what shooting film is like. You're not always going to have an image that's fully in focus when you're shooting film. So you're also carrying that imperfection over to a digital camera. And if you combine with the Fujifilm film simulations, it just adds to that whole analog experience so much more. I shot a lot of Acros film simulation, as you saw. One thing I did do is use focus check a lot, so I can hit the focus lever and it gives me 100% crop into what I'm looking at. This just makes it so much easier looking through the EVF, which isn't the highest of quality EVFs out there, so having that ability to go 100% in on what I'm looking at to focus really helped with this camera. I used this a ton while I was out shooting. Something I also tried to do was zone focusing, because there is a zone focus or focus range listed on this lens specifically. And zone focusing is something I can't really do well on my X100V because of, one, the focus wheel on that camera is not really designed for quick focusing. It's very slow to adjust your focus manually using that lens. With this lens, it's very quick, right? So, and you get the added benefit of seeing your focus range. So I can basically set my aperture to f8 or higher pre-focus for a specific range. When my subject walks into that range, I can take a shot, and more often than not, that subject is going to be in focus. Some say that this is even more reliable than actual autofocus. So, while you don't get autofocus anymore, you do get the benefit of zone focusing, which is pretty cool. I personally want to get better at zone focusing while using my Minolta CLE with these lenses. So this basically lets me practice zone focusing with a digital camera without, draining my wallet with out of focus shots. Okay, so circling back to why you would want to do this or use, adapted lenses on a Fujifilm camera like the X-E4. I think there's one particular group of people that could really see the benefit of using adapted lenses, and that's people who are, heavily invested in Leica glass, and they own one of these, cameras, or they want to make the switch from Leica to Fujifilm, which I've seen many people, want to do. Having the ability to use all those lenses you spend so much money on is really handy. Or maybe you're just like me and you have a few Leica M-Mount lenses and you want to increase the amount of lenses or lens options you have with your Fujifilm camera. By simply getting an adapter like this for 20 bucks, I've just basically added 2 more lenses I can use with this camera. So that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. I think it changes the way I look at the X-E4. as a camera, because I think there's so much more you can do, especially with adapted lenses. Just the fact that I can use a lens like this with a zone focus system, it changes the way I shoot with this camera. So I hope you found this video interesting. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.